This is the audacity of reason. This is Non Sequitur. Season 1, Episode 9. Questioning, a Tale of Concrete Revival. A special interview with Street Epistemologist, Anthony Magnabosco. Join in on the discussion and check out upcoming episodes at www.nonsexshow.com. That's NONSEQ show.com. And now, here are your hosts, Kyle Curtis and Steve McRae.
We are now joined by Anthony Magnabosco. I have been practicing all day long, over and over again, how to say epistemology. So I think that I finally have it. It's been tripping me up for the past couple of days, but
you said it perfectly.
I was good. I you know what? He didn't even ask for my help on that either. He did it all by himself.
I've been in the mirror all day going epistemology. So
usually people trip over my last name more than anything else.
This is true. So Anthony, kind of give us a little background on yourself and what exactly street epistemology is.
Well, it's funny when you said that you were practicing epistemology. When I went out for the first time 5 years ago to try street epistemology, I had my camera with me and I was talking to it. I had it held up and I was looking at it, and I tripped over the word myself. No, epistemology is the study of knowledge. Street epistemology is a philosophy professor's take on the Socratic method, thinking, hey, maybe if we ask people questions how they could be so sure that their belief is true, it might help them reflect on their belief. Examining the method that a person used to be so sure that their belief is true. So he wrote this book. People started going out and uploading examples where they were doing this on the street. You don't have to go out on the street and do these talks. You can just wait for them to happen. But I needed examples. There weren't examples out there. So I went out with my camera, and I could barely even pronounce the word epistemology, and I barely even knew what street epistemology was. But I thought, well, let me just try this, because I was arguing and debating with believers, and I thought this might be a more effective way in helping a person reflect on a deeply held belief. And it turns out that it seems like it might actually be working. It seems like it actually might be an effective tool.
I've seen several videos, and it's a stark contrast, I think, to what people are used to seeing on YouTube. You know, they're used to seeing the contentious, I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing, and your videos seem to take on a different aspect. They're more like a conversation, and everything's civil. You know, so I think that you're right in a way that kind of can break through to people. What would you say that your rate is? I'm trying to think of how to word this, but your rate of, I don't want to say conversion, but where you can tell that you're getting through, and that they might be questioning kind of what they believed before talking to you.
Oh, that's a good question. This might sound terribly cocky, but I'm not tracking it, for one thing. And sure. So if the parameter is that a person slowed down to think about their belief and started questioning, then it's probably 75%. Like, I think it's very, very high.
Oh, wow.
And you're right. Like, I'm not arguing with them. I'm not debating with them. And while I'd like to say that these are conversations, sometimes they don't really go like a back and forth conversation like we're having. Sometimes they're a little more directed, like, let me ask you a whole bunch of questions in 5 or 10 minutes, and let's really explore your belief. It doesn't often allow for a back and forth, but there's nothing saying that you can't do that. But yeah, I think if a person is using street epistemology and they're using Socratic questions to gently challenge how a person can be so sure that their belief is true, and you focus on the method that they used, very, very high percentage of those people, I think, slow down and they think about their belief, and they end up walking away thinking about it more. Yeah.
So what would you take us through kind of your method? Like, when you go out, how do you kind of size up who you're going to talk to? And once you get that particular individual scoped out, I guess, how do you approach it from there, and what's the kind of methodology that you take from that point on?
Okay, let me just preface that by saying, Kyle, that the approach that I use is not like the suggested or recommended. It's just what I'm comfortable doing. It's something that has sort of been honed over the years, and it may not even be optimal. I don't even know. Like, so what I do, for those that don't know, I walk around with a whiteboard with a little marker and a timer, and I ask people if they can chat for 5 minutes. So I'm stopping strangers that tend to look fairly friendly and that they might have some time to kill. So right then and there, I'm probably selectively picking people. People have the option to agree or not. I don't force anybody. If they say, nah, F you, man, I don't want to talk to you. or like, what are you selling? I've had people just like, they're just very defensive right from the get-go. But I try to explain what I'm doing. I'm asking questions to pick a belief. I want to pick a belief that you really think is true. I want to ask you some questions to challenge how you could be so sure. And you might end up walking away thinking about your belief more than you ever have before. That's usually the approach that I take. That's maybe not the optimal approach. Maybe I can go a little further in explaining what I do, but that's kind of what I do. And in my area of this country, it's not unusual for people to stop and agree to talk to me and even let me film it, which is really fascinating because now I have examples to show people, and they can point out something that I did wrong or something that they think that I did right. And I can end up improving on it because there are now video examples to look at.
How much feedback do you get from the people that you have these conversations with? I mean, obviously, I've seen you give out your card, your email, your contact information. What is the response rate from them to contact you in the future in regards to the interview that you had with them, or the Street Epistemology that you had with them?
I don't track it. But if I had no, I don't, because sometimes I forget to give a person a card, or I might give them a card or ask them to take a picture of it. Like, I'm not consistent in how I deliver the contact information. Sometimes I completely forget. But for the people that I give a card to, whether the talk goes well or not, I still give people a card because I want feedback. I would guess 5% of the people, maybe 10, message me for something to say, where's that footage going? Or can we meet again? Or, you know, that definition of faith that I gave you, I thought about it, and that wasn't really the best definition. And I'd like to meet with you again so we can go over it some more. Or
they want to redo.
They want to redo.
That's nice. That's actually good.
I think so. Yeah. So that kind of happens a lot where people, I think they end up reflecting on the conversation, which in it of itself is good.
Sure.
And
that's a win right there, is it not?
Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it is. And then they tend to think, oh, I could have answered that so much better. And then they want to meet again to correct the record. And I'm totally for that. I want to have a complete, full, accurate understanding of what they believe. So I'll often meet with a person again. Sometimes I get it on camera. That's ideal. And we can have another talk. So I'm not tracking it, but it's not unusual for me to get a message from somebody that I've talked to sometimes years after the fact.
That's incredible, I think, because going back to what we started with initially, anytime you see the debates where you have the contentious example where they're kind of going back and forth, you never see one where they walk away, where one party walks away going, you know what, you had a point. It's always either they hate quit or, you know, they're out of there. You always end on those kind of – and I wonder sometimes if the ultimate goal between debates is really to – try to get through to them, or if it's just a shouting match, you know,
okay. Well, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I think the purpose of a debate, whether the participants in the debate know it or not, is to influence the watchers, not the person that you're talking to.
I agree with that one. Yeah.
So like the debate last night was it last night or 2 nights ago? The one with Aaron and Kent.
Discussion.
It was
a discussion.
It feels like
I saw
it. Like months ago.
I can't let that one
Call
go.
It
it's a
what
discussion.
You will.
I got corrected for that too. Don't worry. But I made the mistake of doing it in front of Aaron, so that he was quick to not a debate.
Not a debate, damn it.
Exactly.
But he sure as hell enjoyed himself. I have.
If it was a debate, he would have enjoyed it just as much. So okay, but go ahead.
Call it what you will. I think my point was that Kent is not probably at home thinking about the compelling argument that Aaron made for evolution.
Definitely not.
But there are people that were probably watching that were stunned to see Kent struggle to answer something or possibly dodge to abiogenesis and think about the things that Aaron was saying. And there may even be some atheists that were compelled by Kent's argument. I don't know. I mean, it's entirely possible.
Anthony.
But typically discussions like that, let's go with discussions, tend to be more beneficial to the people that are observing it, not the ones. And that's what I like about SE, Street Epistemology, is that when you're in a one-on-one conversation, which is what most of us find ourselves in, we're having one-on-one talks with our aunt, our friend, our coworker, our parent. Having a heated discussion usually tends to jeopardize the relationship, and it doesn't cause a person to reflect on their belief. But SE, and you can see it in the videos, people slow down, they reflect. They take some time to really think about what they believe, the reasons why, and the method they used. And you rarely see that when people are going head to head on a YouTube video arguing about evolution or something like that.
That's true. It was, while we're talking about Aaron, and we brought this up when we did his interview, but you actually got Aaron to come out and practice street epistemology. How did he do? How did he do? Yeah. I think Aaron fully exceeded my expectations. By coming out, he drove from Dallas to San Antonio. The weather was shitty the first day. We went out the second day. It was windy. We got a lot of heat for the quality of the audio on that video, but we were kind of down to the wire. We had to do with what we had. And he was honestly willing to listen to what I was saying, to take the teachings that I was giving him. And he did go out and try SE. He really did. He gave it his all. And then when we were done, he would listen to what I was saying. And I think he would try to incorporate the teachings that, and I was thinking about this today, actually, for some reason, maybe it was because of watching Aaron with Kent, that I was thinking that I probably could have done a better job of explaining where he could have improved. I think it was my first time going out and teaching somebody like how to do this. Sure. So it was a learning experience for both of us, I think. And I thought he did great. And if you like that video and you would really like to see Aaron give it a try again, I will go up to Dallas, or maybe he can come out here again and we can give it a second go. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I think we should encourage that. Yeah.
I think it'd be fun.
We'll link that video too down in the description so that people can check that out and also express their interest to see Aaron back there. But do you get any? Do you ever get any kind of pushback from anyone that you come in contact with? Like, is there ever a sort of confrontation, or people that just maybe you kind of get into their brain a little bit too much and they get really defensive and try to close it off? And how do you deal with that?
Sometimes I meet people who I don't even interview them, and they just want to know what I'm out there doing. And then when I explain that I'm questioning people about a deeply held belief, then they get really irate. Sometimes they say, well, wait a second, are you an atheist or something? And then it's just curious how defensive some people will get. Very rarely do I talk to somebody and we chat for 5 or 10 minutes and they're upset with me. That barely ever happens. And if it did, I probably was not using street epistemology. I was probably getting sloppy. I was probably providing them with evidence to show that they were mistaken, or I might have been laughing maybe at something kind of that we might find ridiculous as skeptics, possibly. So usually if somebody is irate with me, it's because of something that I've done. That's not always the case. Sometimes people are there are some people that get thrown for a loop because they've never really analyzed their belief before. And then they discover, oh my gosh, I only think that this thing is true because I was taught it. Or I want it to be true, and therefore it's true to me for some reason. And then that discovery is a little jarring for people. So yes, it does happen, but I think it's all on how you carry yourself and how you try to make yourself available after the talk too, which is one of the reasons why some people will reach out. Is they're like, damn, I need to talk to somebody. Can we talk again? Or can you direct me to some resources where I can see how people who don't believe in any gods cope with reality? How do they